Shane, we're heading to week 7 here. Already 2/3 of the way through the regular season. We had some very good games here this past week. But we had a lot of people, or a lot of teams, basically finish where we predict them to. Some very large, wide margin of victories as well. But Northwest Game of the Week was something to behold. At one point, you look at the stat lines, you're like, wow, that was pure domination. At the other point, you look at the score, and you're like, what just happened?
Right. I mean, we were talking a little bit, and you look at it, and you think, okay, that's a close game. But, I mean, that was the biggest domination of a game that ended in a 2-point swing that I've ever seen or heard of in my life. I mean, you had Dakota that probably felt like they left a few points on the field there in the first half, and that was one of those games where you're not lucky you won, but you're real thankful you won, because if you lost, that loss would have stuck with you for a long time.
Well, if you look at some of the makeup of the game, though, to a degree, they were lucky that they won, because they put themselves in a position where they could have very easily even lost that game, as they turned the ball over on their second-to-last drive before they put that 62-yard drive to get down to the 10-yard line to kick the game-winning field goal.
Right. I mean, 2.5 minutes left, you throw a pick. West Carroll's got the ball, what was it, 29, 27, somewhere in there, and you're thinking, run the ball, run the clock out. You know, Dakota had some timeouts left, but, you know, altogether, a good effort by the Indians. I mean, defensively outstanding. I mean, it's no secret, I've been real critical of their pass coverage this year against some poor teams in East Dubuque and whatnot, and they came ready to play last night. You got to give your hats off to them. I mean, they played all around a great defensive game.
Well, you know, they held West Carroll to minus 22 yards rushing, and they held them to 121 yards passing. And in fact, they forced Cody Plattenberger into 8 for 22 passing and picked him off twice. So they really took control of the defensive side of the game outside of the one drive that West Carroll did score on. Had it not been for that drive, Dakota dominated defensively in that game.
Right.
It was a hell of an effort, and nothing against West Carroll, because West Carroll came up very good defensively when it mattered to keep the Indians away from scoring as well. Granted, they took more of a bend but don't break type of style, where Dakota didn't really bend much at all, but they almost lost it at the same time come the fourth quarter. Another good game, though, this past week was actually the Du-Pec-Madison game, where we both had picked Madison, but we anticipated that could potentially be that area of victory to get Du-Pec into the win column, but they ended up coming up short, unfortunately. Got down pretty quick in 13-0 hole, and then a fumble recovery for a touchdown got them back into the game where it was 13-8, but then slowly but surely, right before halftime, Madison took a 21-8 lead in the halftime, and it ended up being a 28-21 score.
Right, and you look at it, and all things considering, you know, the travel is Saturday, you're out of your element, so to speak, and going down there and dealing with the circumstances, and you lose by score. It's probably, I mean, no offense, but Madison's going to make the playoffs and probably going to be one of the worst teams in the field of 32. But nonetheless, you still feel good that, you know, we went down and played a playoff team, only lost by score. That just speaks for the conference, so what Du-Pec's facing week in, week out.
No, I definitely agree with you there, because you're right. Madison will most likely make the playoffs at 6-3, and they're going to be one and done come playoff time, and it's going to be a 60-0 score, because they're going to get annihilated by somebody down there with an 8-1 or possible 9-0 record, because right now they're looking at projectively having 4 9-0 teams in their bracket down in the South. So. But we got quite a good list of games here this week. Some are going to be pretty much throwaways, and others are going to be pretty tightly contested. Shane, we're heading back to Milledgeville this week where they are going to play host to AFC. AFC comes in this game with a 2-4 record, while Milledgeville comes in with the expected 5-1 mark. Last week, AFC lost to Stockton 45-6, where Milledgeville beat Warren in a surprising score, 58-30. Last year, this game took place in Week 3, and Milledgeville won this game 22-19. Of course, that's a time when we thought AFC was really one of those teams that could contend for the playoffs, but they just kept losing games just like this at the beginning of the season.
Right, and AFC kind of probably wishes that would be the case this year. I mean, looking at some of their losses, they got to feel as if they haven't played their best game yet. I mean, but the records are what they are, and this game to me is more about Milledgeville than anything. You know, Milledgeville's 5-1, still can contend for the conference championship Week 9 when they play Aquin. But I mean, that Milledgeville Warren game sure was a head scratcher if we didn't know what exactly was going on.
Right, I agree, and I mean, we talked before we got on earlier today, and we were talking about, you know, potentially Milledgeville basically playing some younger kids to get them more varsity playing time.
Scores are meaningless if you get the win.
Right. I mean,
that's, to me, what kind of happened here.
It's still a 4-score win, but when you look at the overall thing, it was 22-16 at the half. So, you know, if I'm coaching, I'm thinking, okay, we got to make sure we secure this victory. But hats off to Warren for showing up, putting up 30 points on the board. Very good game by them overall, regardless of the situation, and that's great to see. Unfortunately, this week they'll be forfeiting their Week 7 matchup, but totally understand. I applaud them for actually looking out for the kids rather than paying attention to a football game.
Right. And I'm sure Lena Winslow appreciates that now because they get Mooseheart playoff points too. So I guess that was a win-win for everybody.
Right. Looking at this game though, Milledgeville AFC, I agree with you. Milledgeville is definitely, this game is more about Milledgeville, as right now they are playoff eligible with their 5th win that they got by beating Warren. A win this week will push Milledgeville into that playoff berth spot where they'll actually clinch a position in the playoffs. AFC, on the other hand, with their 4 losses, they need this win, and they need to win out just to get into the playoffs.
Right, and after Milledgeville, you still have Polo and Warren. Looking at that, you know, I think AFC and Polo will be a good game, and then Warren, you know, you might as well, unfortunately, chalk that up as a victory. So these next 2 games are crucial for AFC. Only problem is you got to go through Milledgeville this week. You got a little bit easier contest next week, but unfortunately, Milledgeville's standing in the way this week.
They are, but I think AFC can match up with Milledgeville. I mean, we were down there I was down there for the Milledgeville-Orangeville matchup. And I still feel that AFC can play with Milledgeville. I mean, they have some numbers to work with. Granted, they're still a young team. And what happens with young teams are mistakes that can cost you ball games, where AFC has a little bit more seniors playing that could make up that difference as well. But, you know, I do like where Milledgeville's body of work has taken them to this point.
Right, and, you know, just to touch up on a little bit, you know, we're talking how AFC can play with Milledgeville, and, I mean, realistically, that's just the nature of the upstate this year. I mean, outside of Aquin and probably River Ridge and Warren, you throw those middle 5 teams into each other. I mean, you're looking at good games week in and week out. I mean, that's just what the upstate is this year. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything different in this game either. But Milledgeville being at home, get to 6-1, that's where I see it going anyway.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, Milledgeville's going to be, they've been tough at home. They're obviously very good. They've improved over last year and the year before, and I still see them building on that, and I expect to hear that victory bell going off again. Shane, our next contest is going to take us up to one of the best places to play in all of the conference. I don't know, with Dakota's updates
wow, that's
these
true.
days, that it could be a good battle. But it's still a very nice place to play.
Very nice field.
River Ridge, that is where we're heading, and they're taking on the Aquin Bulldogs. Aquin comes in with that expected 5-1 mark as we project them to be at this juncture of the season, and River Ridge comes in with a 2-4 record. Last week, Aquin beat Orangeville in our upstate game of the week, 27-6, while River Ridge lost to Polo in a game that was tightly contested and a lot closer than that score indicated, but River Ridge lost 29-8. Shane, last year in this matchup, this game also took place in week 6, so it's happening a week later this year, but Aquin won this game 55-8 last year. Now, last year we were talking about River Ridge being more improved and how we could see some things happening there. And this year we kind of project them to be at that 2-3 win mark with the potential possibility of getting that 4th or 5th win. And they made a very loud statement that they can play with this middle of the pack of the Upstate Conference with that game with Polo last week.
Right. I mean, River Ridge, for all intents and purposes, have lost the games we thought they would lose on paper. The way they're losing them, though, is way different than it used to be. I mean, it used to be you rolled into River Ridge and you kept your boys healthy and you got out of there with a win. I mean, that's just the way it was. Last night was a testament to how that is not the case anymore. River Ridge is playing mighty fine football. The only problem is they've run into some good teams, and it doesn't look to be any better this week with Aquin coming in. But to think it'll be a 55-8 game again, I just don't see that happening.
I don't either. I mean, you look at some of Aquin's games this year, and we stressed it pretty much last week, where the line play's not where it was compared to last year.
Not even close.
The play calling is similar, which we anticipate, but if you look at their ground game, they're just not getting yards like they should be with their offense in the backfield. And if you can't run the ball and you're having line issues and you're forcing yourself to only win by throwing the ball, that's going to create problems come playoff time when you get that run-dominant team that's not only going to keep you off the field offensively, but they're going to punch you in the mouth on their way to the end zone going 80 yards at 8 minutes of possession.
Right, and I mean, unfortunately, we could literally talk about this every week. That's the difference in the Northwest and the OC. I mean, Aquin's 5-1, and if you throw them in the Northwest, they're not even a playoff team. I mean, it'd be a battle between West Carroll, Dakota, and Aquin. I mean, for who's not going to make playoffs.
No, I agree with you.
So I mean, Aquin has benefited from an easy schedule outside of the all-out butt whooping that Forreston put on them. Problem is, you're talking playoffs and what could happen there. I mean, 8-1, 7-2, whatever they finish at, I would not be disappointed in the least if I matched up with Aquin in the playoffs, just for the fact of the level of competition they play. I mean, it's no different than what we've talked about Ottawa Marquette over the years. Weak competition, they run into a good team, they're done.
Well, and I mean, people are already talking about Aquin across the state. I mean, you can even see it in the polls. They were once in the polls. Yep. They have since dropped out of the polls. So people know that despite what they did last year, they're just not impressing people, even people around the state that don't even see him play.
Right. And I kind of expected a little bit of this going into the year. I mean, based on what we thought was coming back from Polo and Stockton, and we thought Orangeville would be up there with them too.
Right.
But what has really surprised me is the lack of what Aquin is. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aquin's a good 5-1 team.
They're dangerous.
They're dangerous. They have weapons, but it's been disappointing to me. I mean, I'm one of them that expected them to be a little better than what they are.
Yeah.
But as far as River Ridge, I like Aquin. I mean, I can't go against them now. I mean, this should be a handily won game.
I like Aquin too, and it's not because River Ridge hasn't gotten better. They have. Aquin's just got a few more athletes that River Ridge won't contain. Shane, we come across one of our more interesting matchups of the week, and this one is going to take place in Kirkland, where the Orangeville Broncos are going to travel to play the Hiawatha Hawks. Orangeville comes to this game with a 3-3 record, as Hiawatha comes in with a 4-2 record. Last week, Orangeville lost to Aquin in our upstate game of the week, 27-6, a game that was mostly controlled by Aquin. And Hiawatha beat South Beloit, our old buddies, South Beloit, 70-16.
Way to lay off the dogs there.
Right. South Beloit's not as good as they were last year. That's just a proven fact. But these two teams last met back when Hiawatha was still in the Upstate Illini Conference in the East Division. In 2000, and Orangeville won this game 53-0. Shane, I'll let you take the lead on this, on what you kind of expect in this matchup as we break it down here.
Well, to be honest, I don't know what to expect. I mean, you're looking at Orangeville, you got the benefit of the doubt playing in the NUIC, even though it is the weaker side as far as schedule compared to Hiawatha. Seems to be a little bit bigger, but then you break it down a little bit more and you start looking at scores, which has gotten us in trouble time and time again. No different than last week in Dakota, West Carroll. We looked at scores and thought, West Carroll's a couple scores did better, and that didn't prove to be the case. Hiawatha played Aquin to 20. Orangeville played Aquin to 21, right?
Yep.
So, and it's at Hiawatha, but look at Hiawatha's wins. They're against crap teams. So, realistically, where do you go to break this down? This is a for sure pick 'em.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, because the 4 wins that Hiawatha has, Orangeville would have those exact same 4 wins. And, you can look at another area where Hiawatha has played River Valley. Milledgeville played River Valley. Milledgeville won 65-0. Hiawatha won 58-7. Milledgeville beat Orangeville by 2 points in a very tightly contested ball game.
So it's a wash.
It is, because, and that's a hard one to pick, because you know that both teams pulled back the dogs in the game, knowing that was going to be a rout.
Right.
So really, you're back to Orangeville Aquin and Aquin Hiawatha. And Aquin Hiawatha, Aquin had 5 turnovers in the second quarter.
Right.
Aquin didn't make many mistakes against Orangeville.
But also a week 1 game, 6 weeks removed. So, and every team's improved since then. So, it's a gray area. And then on the other hand, you got to look at momentum and winnability here. Orangeville knows their backs are against the wall now at this point. Now this is a must-win. If they don't come out fired up, which would be a very lucrative way to want to pick Orangeville in this game, knowing that they have to win and you would ride that momentum.
Well, that's just it. And you're saying that now because at 3-3, Orangeville gets this loss. They're not out of the playoff hunt, but it's going to be hard to get 2 more wins when you have Stockton in week 9 and you still have East Dubuque. And granted, East Dubuque's 1-5, but I still feel East Dubuque can somewhat give Orangeville a game. And they beat Orangeville last year, and they're basically the exact same 2 teams coming back this year. So, this, like you said, this is definitely a must-win game for Orangeville. Their backs are against the wall. Granted, if they do go 5-4, going through some numbers, Orangeville will be in. They'll be right at the bubble, though. So it's really tight. But, they're projected, if they're at 5-4, they'll have 38 playoff points the way the schedule will play out, most likely. That's a pretty sure fact. But they got to get that going. Who you taking?
I'm going to take Hiawatha.
Very well.
Realistically. At home, all things considered, I don't want to go against Orangeville, but I just think Hiawatha's going to pull it off.
Nice. I like Orangeville because 2 of their 3 wins, they also beat the same teams Hiawatha wins, so I got the Broncos. Shane, we're going back to the Le-Win Athletic Bowl where the Panthers are taking on the Mooseheart Red Ramblers.
What? Mooseheart?
Mooseheart.
Not Warren.
Not Warren. Unfortunately, Warren's taking that forfeit this week, like we mentioned already, but I don't blame him.
No.
Because you got the #1 ranked team in the state. That would not be pretty.
You still want your kids to walk.
Yeah. Yeah. For a high school football game, I agree. Warren's doing the right thing, in my opinion. Mooseheart comes in this game with a 4-2 record. Winslow coming in with that 6-0 record as they've already clinched their spot to the 2017 playoffs and the road to DeKalb. Last week, Mooseheart beat River Valley 58-0. Our friends River Valley again.
There they are.
There they are. And Lena Winslow beat Amboy 54-0 as Robion took off for 150 yards on just 6 carries, and that puts him 81 yards away from 1,000 on the season.
2 minutes into the game, you should have no problem getting that. I'm sorry. I mean, we're just on some of the forums around the state, and you're plugging in names on projections on Cal Preps and whatnot. You're looking at a 60-0. Man, I'm gonna say it's bullshit crap. Lena Winslow wanted to put up 100 on Mooseheart. They do it. They don't want to. 60-0 my final. Mooseheart, no go. Lena Winslow, glad you could fill in a win on the schedule and get some more playoff points. So, you know what? Hats off to Lena Winslow on finding Mooseheart. Mooseheart, hats off on wanting to play Lena Winslow. But it's gonna be an old kick in the butt.
Well, and here's the thing too. Mooseheart just needs to get to one more win, and they'll be in the playoffs.
And then they can turn around and play them again.
Exactly. That's what this matchup represents.
And just to talk a little bit more, Mooseheart matches up with River Ridge in Week 9. There it is, potentially.
Yeah.
So it could happen.
I know.
So 5-4 gets Mooseheart in. I mean, that's the way we're at. So I mean, nothing better than coming to Lena Winslow in Week 7 and then turn around and come back in Week 10 for basically the same swooping. Sorry, guys, but seriously.
No, I agree. I mean, they're going to get a taste of Lena Winslow now, and they'll have a good taste of what it's going to feel like come playoff time.
Right.
Because it's going to happen.
Well, this time I'm saying, it's really hard to beat a team twice.
If it's not Lena Winslow, it's going to be either Aquin or Forreston.
Right. It's hard to beat a team twice, except unless you're Mooseheart coming to Lena Winslow.
Yeah.
It's done. It's over.
So, I agree. I don't know if Lena will put up 60. I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
I'm gonna set Valentine's.
I would think Aaron sets it up back a little bit. I bet Valentine goes 3 carries, 100.
I was just gonna say, I bet Valentine's over/under on carries at 6.
Oh, I would definitely take the under on that.
And I'd say, yeah.
Today we're heading back to East Dubuque where the Warriors are playing the Du-Pec Rivermen. Du-Pec comes in this game with an 0-6 record as they lost earlier today to Madison 28-21. And East Dubuque comes in with their 1-5 record after getting dismantled by Forreston 40-7. Shane, last year this game took place in Week 1 when they played Pecatonica. That's correct. East Dubuque won 27-6, and if you remember correctly, Pecatonica had that guest speaker in.
Right.
Motivational speaker.
Yeah, I mean, the video, the hype. I mean, Pecatonica was going to go 9-0, win the playoffs. I mean,
it was cool.
It was nice. I hope the guy still has a job because that was terrible. But realistically, we're talking the Rivermen at East Dubuque. Great showing today by Du-Pec. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
no, that was a great game.
When we first saw schedule first came out, we said, okay, there's Du-Pec's win. They're going to go down to Madison. And then as the games played, we're like, oh, man, Madison's probably going to throttle them. And then as the week progressed, we're like, okay.
Du-Pec's got an opportunity.
Du-Pec's got an opportunity to win the game. Kept it close, just couldn't quite come out with it. I mean, for all intents and purposes, from my understanding, Madison played one hell of a dirty game. But unfortunately, Du-Pec just didn't quite have enough to get there. Look, I like what I'm seeing out of Du-Pec. They played, I wouldn't say tough against Dakota, but they were that team that kind of just wouldn't go away. And now you're playing. I mean, the important thing for Du-Pec at this point is obviously we're not talking playoffs. We're talking about how many wins can they realistically get in building towards next year and building that program. I mean, we've talked about it numerous times. Co-ops struggle at first. It takes time to win, but I like what I'm seeing from Du-Pec. I mean, you got a lot of kids with a lot of talent. I mean, it's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Because they would not have gone together for this co-op if they weren't expecting something coming up the pipeline.
And it's coming.
And you know it's coming. You can see it at the junior high level. If anybody gets out to junior high games, Du-Pec is
in the youth programs.
Yeah,
yes.
Du-Pec's not a team to just expect to win at the junior high and youth program levels. They're tough. And you got that coming up, and you got the coach who led those teams in the past leading the varsity now. It's, like you said,
just an all-around great fit there, realistically.
It's still off in the distance, but you can hear the horns coming because Du-Pec is on its way.
Which is exciting. I mean, I'm ready for this.
I mean, I am too. And, I mean, I'm not expecting it next year, but I definitely think 2019 and 2020, watch out, because you're going to start seeing them come around.
Exactly. I'm all for adding another team that's just going to go head-to-head with everybody. I mean, we thought that when we added Amboy.
Right.
I mean, that turned out to be a farce. But East Dubuque this week, hosting Du-Pec, I just think East Dubuque's still a little bit too much for Du-Pec. Could be one hell of a game, though.
Oh, I agree. I think this is going to be similar to last year's matchup. The game itself is going to be a good game, I really feel. If you're heading to East Dubuque, I would definitely go out and take in the game because I do expect a Warrior win. Heading down the Clipper country where Amboy is going to play host to the Dakota Indians. Dakota comes in this game with a 5-1 mark as they're looking to get that win number 6 and punch their ticket to the 2017 playoffs, while Amboy comes in with a 2-4 record in must-win situations. They need to win out if they truly want to make the playoffs. Last week, Dakota played in our Northwest game of the week and beat West Carroll 10-8 in what was a nail-biter of a game, despite the fact that Dakota had 300 yards to West Carroll's 100 yards. Give or take a few yards, but you get the gist.
A lot to a little.
And Amboy got throttled once again by Lena Winslow, 54-0. Last year, Dakota won this game in week 2, 38-20, behind 320-plus yards rushing by Andrew Winger alone.
Right.
Well, Winger's gone.
Trey Young emerges.
There you go.
Swap the name, same result. To me, this has got trap written all over it, for all intents and purposes. You feel good after that West Carroll win. You kind of let off the gas a little bit. Start looking ahead to that EPC matchup in week 8, and Clippers burn you. But I don't see that happening. Dakota's focused, ready to go.
I don't disagree. Coach Freeze definitely got the boys focused on, hey, we need 6 wins. Looking at things prior, we thought 5 wins would not get them into the playoffs, but looking at things projecting out, 5 wins will get Dakota in the playoffs.
I would hope.
Oh, it will. Because you look at it going forward now, Dakota's going to be at 39 playoff points if they were to go 5-4. 39 is their number. Especially after Du-Pec lost today, because they had Du-Pec won, that would have given them 40.
Right.
39 will get them in at 5-4, but
I don't think we need to talk about it.
No, because 5-4 is going to get you either Forreston or Lena Winslow, and that's not what you want. And most likely, that's going to be Forreston that you're going to get in the first round if you go 5-4.
Right. But I'd like to think that we don't need to talk about that. Basically, if Dakota plays the way they did last night, I mean, realistically, Amboy's got some athletes and some size, but just haven't put it together.
Nope, and they're not going to this week either. As long as Dakota can stay focused, as you said, they have definitely been picking up the areas, like you mentioned earlier, where they were struggling with pass defense. They were struggling with consistently running the ball, and even against West Carroll, I mean, they had more penalty yards than any single one of their rushers had for rushing yards. So that's not a very good sign. But at the same token, they have a stable of backs. So if you really put it all together, you got 3 guys that can run the ball.
Well, that's just it. I mean, they come in waves, realistically. I mean, we were talking today on the phone how Engelbrecht had half the carries that Valentine did, and Valentine's not really running the ball much outside of a couple big games against, Forreston EPC. But I don't see any way. I guess I shouldn't say any way. I just don't see Dakota folding in this. And realistically, ever since that Forreston thrashing, you've seen a little improvement. They fouled that up with what was it? It was East Dubuque and then Du-Pec. East Dubuque. I mean, that's probably a game Dakota wants to forget about, even though you come away with the win. And a lot of the Du-Pec game, kind of the same, but, I mean, the improvements they made from Du-Pec to West Carroll, if they can continue to make improvements like that, that Week 9 matchup might be closer than what we thought.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you really look at the breakdown of West Carroll. A penalty kept 7 points off the board. A missed field goal kept 3 points off the board. And then an opportunity to go for it on 4th down when they could have went for a field goal. It could have been 20-0 at halftime.
Should have been, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. And West Carroll, give them credit for hanging in there and playing that game. But Amboy, in my opinion, does not stand a chance this week. The Indians are going to take care of business.
I agree.
Shane, we're heading up to Galena where the gentlemen play, and they are playing host to the defending champs, the Forreston Cardinals. Galena comes in this game with an 0-6 record. Forreston comes in with a 5-1 record. Just throw this out there because we basically know what the outcome of this game is going to be. I can write it down right now. But last week, Forreston beat East Dubuque 40-7, while Galena lost to EPC 40-0. Last year in this game took place in Week 2 in Forreston. Forreston won 41-13, but don't be confused by them 13 points, as Forreston was up 41-0 when they put in the fresh off team, and Galena scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, that really tells you what next year's going to be for Forreston, though. I mean, well, we can talk about that next year. Yeah, this used to be one of those first, I mean, how many years in a row didn't we see where Forreston and Galena met up in like the first week or 2 of the season? I mean, it was a big game.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Sometimes you picked Forreston on the road, and other times you picked Galena at home. I mean, those days are long gone. Forreston going to get pretty much a victory. We're just talking basically another game on the schedule towards Forreston, just cruising along, getting ready for playoffs. I mean, the burn of their schedule's over. I mean, they got West Carroll at the end of the year, but not the end of the year, but in a couple weeks. So,
yep, they got those guys coming up in Week 8. But I mean, after what I saw, no offense to the Thunder, but Forreston's just still at a different level than where they are currently. So,
I mean, we might as well just. I mean, I was the person that said, "Oh, let's chalk up 9-0 for Forreston." Yeah, they lost to Winslow, but it's pretty fair to say they'll go 8-1. Just get your ducks in a row, start playing better every week, get ready for that championship repeat run.
If Forreston doesn't go 8-1,
there's a problem.
There's a problem. Second, they're not winning state.
No.
Granted, state still runs through Lincoln Winslow as of right now, but Forreston is defending champs, and like I've stated before, they are the defending champs and will be the defending champs until somebody beats them in the playoffs.
And that's not going to be for a while.
No.
Forreston Day at Galena, running clock. Get there, get the win, get home.
Yep, I agree. Shane, our upstate game of the week takes us to John O'Boyle Field in Stockton, where the Blackhawks will play host to the Polo Marcos. Both teams come in with 4-2 records, as Polo beat River Ridge last week 29-8, while Stockton took care of business with AFC 45-6. Shane, last year this game was played in Week 3. At the time, was our upstate game of the week. And it was a game where Stockton unleashed the dogs 50-6, while the Stockton faithful basically taunted the Polo faithful towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I think that was the week that Stockton self-anointed themselves as state champs, only to lose in the first round.
Well, that's funny because it was the same game the year before, except in Stockton, where Polo did the exact same thing.
Right, I mean, realistically, these two teams deserve each other as far as cockiness goes. I mean, they're a mirror image. I mean, it is what it is. This game, 4-2, 4-2. You can't tell me going into this they don't want to beat the shit out of each other. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I agree.
But that only goes on for so long once the game begins. And then you start looking at Polo's whatever deal was with River Ridge and Stockton. You know, I mean, they've had a couple good losses, in my opinion. Otto Marquette and West Carroll. I mean, that's nothing to hang your hat on. They're playing some decent football.
Yep.
Stockton.
And you look at Polo's two losses.
Ugh.
Yeah.
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 Ha! No. Yeah. So, I mean, but Stockton, I think, is, in some people's minds, Stockton is better than what they thought they'd be this year, which is a great sign to see because the new head coach, it takes a while to get going sometimes.
It does. In all honesty, Stockton's playing about right where I expected them to be. I mean, honestly, I have Polo, Stockton, Orangeville all in that same mix. Obviously, to this point in the season, Stockton is showing that they're a little bit better than what Orangeville is. And I would feel that a little bit better than what Polo is. But this isn't going to be a 50-6 game like it was last year. This is going to definitely be a lot closer. And quite frankly, I see this coming down to a battle of the offensive and defensive lines from both sides. And that's going to be a fullback game. This is going to be Colin Dvorak against Reed Taylor.
I mean, realistically, what more could you ask for? I mean, that's what these two teams like to do. I'm excited for it.
I think it will be a great game. I anticipate a great turnout. I mean, usually both teams travel well,
and we don't like each other.
They hate each other.
That fuels it. That's great.
I mean, who doesn't hate going to Stockton to begin with?
Right.
I mean, you love going there for the game because going there for the game, you get literally right up on the sidelines.
Which you don't see much anymore, unfortunately.
I mean, it's great atmosphere. I mean, Stockton has a great atmosphere. Love going to games there, to be honest.
Just don't like playing there.
Yeah, you just don't want to play there because, you always got to get that additional score.
Right. So
at least in the past, anyway. That's not so much the case anymore, but not since you can't pick your own rough crews anymore.
Right.
You don't have to get that extra touchdown to win.
That wasn't just Stockton.
Nope, that was a lot of places.
Nice place in Freeport that used to do that as well. So at least it runs within the conference. So I'm going to take Stockton home, though. I just think it's, at this point in the season, just a little bit too much for Polo. But like you said, very close game. Could go either way. Stockton's my pick.
I have to agree with you. I think the Blackhawks are clicking on the cylinders they have right now. They're firing. Their two losses, like you stated, are quality losses.
Playoff teams.
Both of them playoff teams. One of them is highly ranked in 1A. The other will be in the 2A playoffs. So, yeah. If you look at Stockton's schedule, Polo's schedule, granted, mirror records, Stockton has the tougher schedule. And they're still in contention with Aquin for the Upstate Conference title, which, ironically, between Stockton, Polo, and Aquin, it's been between those three teams since 2010.
Right, and then, Milledgeville at the end of the year, I mean, you got three teams that are going to battle out here in the next couple weeks. Definitely exciting times in the Upstate, but
yep, I agree. But this week. Stockton it is for both of us. Shane, our Northwest game of the week takes us back to Pearl City, where EPC is playing host to West Carroll. Both teams come in with the exact same 4-2 records after West Carroll lost last week in the Northwest game of the week on the road in Dakota, 10-8. And EPC took care of business as usual, getting back into the win column with their 40-0 win over Galena. Last year, Shane, this game took place in week 2. West Carroll wasn't playing at the top of their game at the beginning of the year last year, and EPC took care of them 32-16.
I would have liked to have seen that last year towards the end of the year.
Right. Especially because, when you think about last year, EPC started to kind of come.
They hit that.
They hit a
They pretty much came down since the Winslow win, if you think about it.
No, you're right, they did.
And that was week 1.
Yeah,
so.
Because you look at week 6, they played a Jekyll and Hyde Dakota team and damn near lost that game.
Right.
But here we are. It's 2017. Two new teams.
4-2, 4-2. Had we talked about this last week, kind of did us a favor, I think, because we could have easily fallen into that. Okay, West Carroll's 5-1, EPC's 4-2. West Carroll played Galena close, but I'm I'm glad they lost to Dakota and kind of showed us what they really are, because a lot of people had put the goodies on West Carroll falsely. Don't get me wrong, West Carroll's a good team, and they could create some matchup problems in 2A. We'll talk about that when we get there. But last night kind of exposed to what we feel West Carroll is all along, and it kind of hopefully opened the eyes of others.
Well, when you start looking at playoff projections and predictions, the only way you can do predictions is based off of common opponents through the course of the season and how you project that to play out.
And week 6 is tough to do that.
It is tough to do that, especially when you're riding at 4-1. The team you're about to play is 4-1. And then you have EPC sitting at 3-2.
Right.
And then you look at what said EPC did against Lena Winslow and what West Carroll did against Lena Winslow, and you throw it into a computer system, and that computer says West Carroll's better than EPC.
That's not the case.
But that's looking at paper.
Right.
Paper doesn't tell you jack squat. Realistically, West Carroll's going to have their hands full this week.
Right. If you watch college football, it's no different than the old BCS rankings.
Oh, they still do computer rankings.
It's crap, because teams match up differently, and you can't look at a 40-0 versus a 6-7 score. Like
I talked to a guy earlier today on a forum, you got to look through the muck of what is taking place.
Right.
Rankings mean something. I don't care what people say. Yeah, they don't mean anything, but they do mean something if you know how to perceive them.
Right.
If you see 3 teams that are consistently ranked year in and year out and making deep playoff runs year in and year out, and then you have another team that is narrowly losing to those 3 teams and is going to play in a class down, that becomes a very dangerous team come playoff time, despite the fact they might be 5-4 or 6-3.
Right. How many times haven't we seen that?
We see it a lot.
If you take away the success factor out of the IHSA, how many times haven't we seen those crap teams in their classes come on down and wipe the area clean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's realistically it's the same thing. But really focusing here, EPC at home, Pearl City. I look for them to get back in the winning streak at Pearl City under Coach Ashley. West Carroll's got some athletes. They got a heck of a defense, but I just think that EPC is just going to be a little bit too much for them.
I think so too. You look at the lines. West Carroll's going to have a huge line advantage here, both offensively and defensively. Now, West Carroll has a strong line, but they just don't have the size. I don't see them being able to move the line, especially after watching them against Dakota this past week. Dakota controlled the line, and it was very evident because, West Carroll ran for negative 22 yards. Their longest rush of the night was the 3 yards. That was the biggest rush that West Carroll had on the night. That's ineffective. And, you're playing EPC, and, EPC somewhat had a close game against Forreston, but outside of 2 big plays, Forreston dominated that game. I don't care what people say.
That game was not.
I really don't, because Forreston dominated that game outside of 2 big plays. You can say what you want.
It's no different than the Dakota-West Carroll game.
Right.
Dakota dominated
the game.
Narrowly
by
won.
2 points.
But
Forreston dominated EPC. EPC benefited on 2 big plays that they caught Forreston sleeping on. Shame on Forreston for sleeping, because you just made inferior team look that much better than they did.
And not to take
Lena Winslow took care of it.
And not to take anything away from what you're going to say, but realistically, this kind of all circles back around.
It does.
And I'll tell you why. Because West Carroll, at this point in the season, is exactly what we thought EPC would be. West Carroll is exactly what we thought West Carroll would be.
Right.
EPC is exactly what we thought they would be at this point. So then you could take it one step further. Well, where did we pick to win this game at the start of the season? We picked EPC to win this game.
Right.
What has happened that would make us change our mind on that? Absolutely nothing.
Correct. I agree.
EPC at home, Pearl City, they don't lose. When they do, it's to Lena Winslow. West Carroll's not Lena Winslow. EPC at home.
I agree. The Cats are going to beat the Thunder. So, Shane, that pretty much takes care of our breakdown for Week 7. A couple good games. Definitely Polo Stockton and West Carroll EPC. I don't think the West Carroll EPC game will be that far out of balance. I think it could be a very good game. I would say within 2 scores. Maybe similar to last year. Give or take a few. You could see EPC I definitely could see EPC dominate the game, but West Carroll, like you said, they got a very stingy defense, and that can definitely make up for differences.
Well, and this game of the week will kind of feed into next week's game of the week. It'll kind of give us a little idea of what to expect at next week's game of the week, which I would assume would be Dakota and EPC. Looking forward a little bit here.
Right.
With a common opponent, West Carroll, one week after the other. You can't get any closer to score comparisons than that.
Right. 6-1, 5-2.
So, but for me personally, the Orangeville and Hiawatha game is where my attention is going to be mainly at this week. That's out of all our games what we feel to be the most pick'em. So, I'm really excited to that game.
That is going to be another good one on top of our game of the week.
Great coverage of that Saturday. So
right, exactly. So
awesome.
That is a Saturday game. We will be there as well. So make sure you get out to the game, support your teams, and as always, root for the NUIC.